Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the improvements they should make to F1 Fantasy over either the summer break or for next season, as there's quite a lot of things I think need changing for F1 Fantasy considering it's pretty much shambles at the minute. So before all of this, make sure to like and subscribe, follow my Twitter, join my league, and hey, let's get straight into it. Right, so I think everyone can agree with me at the minute that F1 Fantasy is getting a bit ridiculous. There is two teams out there possibly that you need to have, and it's either replacing Zhou or Tsunoda, and that's the only opposite. Everyone has Verstappen, everyone has Perez, everyone has Stroll and Alonso, and now I know it's not really their fault because Aston Martin shouldn't be this good, and then that would make it a little bit better, but they need to update it, which I will talk about later on in the video. There is 5 major things that I think they need to change about F1 Fantasy, and in no particular order, I will start off with the first one, which is having points in qualifying actually be more important. Now, the reason I say this is at the minute, for first place in qualifying you get 10 points, and then all the way down to 10th you get 1 point, so it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No points for not coming in the top 10. You get -5 for not setting a time, and if you get a DNF, you get -15. Now, that all seems pretty well, but now you've got to take into account how many points you get in the race, especially the race positions gained. Now, I'm going to use Verstappen versus Perez in Australia. I'm going to show both their points. Who do you think did better? Now, would it surprise you for me to tell you, if you couldn't remember the Australian Grand Prix, Perez actually started pretty much at the back, but finished 5th, and almost got double the points Verstappen did when he whitewashed the whole race, first in qualifying and first in race. It doesn't make sense that Verstappen should be getting less points for doing better. So for me, what they need to do is have qualifying 25 points as well. Now, they can keep top 10 not getting any points, that's fine, but qualifying needs to get more points, because at the minute, like Verstappen in Miami as well, it's actually better for the top teams to qualify lower and then work their way up the fields, like with Stroll in Miami as well. He got more points than Gasly, who qualified 5th, all because he gained 6 race positions in that Aston Martin and finished 12th, even though Gasly had a much better race weekend. So I just don't like how it's working out at the minute, especially with the qualifying, and they need to change that. Next up, they need to change the DNF points deduction. Now, the reason I say this, though you might say it is because I've already had 2 DNFs, so that's a -40 I've already taken. But with no bias, 20-point deduction for a DNF is just too much. Now, the thing I was thinking of having is, if you crash, -20, that's fine because it's your fault. If you get disqualified, -50, because disqualifications rarely ever happen and you should be penalised a lot if that happens because that's the driver's fault. Now, if there's a malfunction at the car, it should just be -10. It shouldn't be that much for a malfunction. Yes, for a crash because it's their fault, but it's not the driver's fault that they get a malfunction. So they need to change that round because you're getting too many deducted points and it's not set out enough. They just need to make it a bit more advanced than they have already because it's like being set on easy mode. I would also like to talk about the amount of drivers and constructors you get. Now, I believe there should be 6 drivers or 3 constructors. So either have 6 drivers and 2 constructors, or 3 constructors and 5 drivers. And the reason for this is you should have the same budget as you had with those ones. It's just it adds a bit of variety. Now, with the 6 driver version, now if you had 6 drivers, say you wanted to have Red Bull and Aston Martin as your constructors, that means you now can't afford Verstappen. That means there's variety now. Who are you going to pick? Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton. Now you can pick all of these because now you've got this 3.6 million like budget gap that for 2 Logan Sargent if you wanted to get the cheapest guy. And then it just adds a bit of variety to the teams you can choose because everyone's got the same teams at the minute. And same goes for the constructors. Constructors, Aston Martin and Red Bull, everyone has. If you add a 3rd constructor in there, also means maybe you can't afford Red Bull, but if you can as well, then you have to change your driver. And the constructor you want to bring in, say you want to bring in Alpine, where are you getting this 10 million for? Again, you've got to get rid of a Perez or a Verstappen, and then bring in a Russell or a Gasly. So it just adds a bit more variety that I think F1 Fantasy is just missing a little bit, and it's got a lack of. So I think they should change this. 4th point I want to bring up is bring back dynamic price changes. I really don't know why they got rid of dynamic price changing because this season's been a joke with the prices. Aston Martin need a massive boost in price, and also anyone who brought them in early deserves the price change because they deserve their team value because they got it right, especially from Bahrain. And last year, the team values were just changing so much better, and you also had to be careful when to bring in a driver, because they could change at any time that wasn't the race weekend. And I think that was just a much better system, and realistically, the price changes at the minute, changing once a week or whatever it is, or once every race weekend. I just think it's not enough. And they had a winning formula with the price dynamic changes, so I don't know why they just didn't keep it. So bring that back, please. Fifth and finally, this one's not so much a criticism, but more they can something improve on, and it's make an app, for God's sake. Like, realistically, it's crazy how such a popular sport that has a popular fantasy side to it, with over 2 million people playing it, only has a link from the F1 app. Like, Jesus Christ, how long would it take just to literally get that link, put it as its app by itself, and then you don't have to faff about having to go onto the F1 app? Like, it would generally take 5 minutes to do this, and I really don't understand why they can't. So, like I said, it's not much of a criticism, this one, because yes, there is still something in place for you to use it on your phone. I just think having its own app would be better than just implementing it into the F1 app, because it's so out of the way, people don't even realise it's there half the time as well, if you didn't play F1 Fantasy. So just make it its own app, it would be more popular, you'd get people seeing that it's an actual thing, instead of just being a background app on the F1 app. So, come on F1, get with the program. But anyway, yeah, I think those are my top 5 improvements that need to happen to F1 Fantasy by the summer break, as there needs to be a massive change, at least to the price, at least by summer break. And I think the way to do that would be by literally just keeping everyone's prices the same. Like, if you've got a team value of 101 million, keep it, but just put Aston Martin's price like 10 million up. And then to make it work, you have to remake your team. So obviously you can't keep that Aston Martin price as it was. So you have to redo your team just quickly over the summer break. F1 Fantasy, I love doing videos on it, and I love playing it as well. It's great fun, but I really wish I could bring up different drivers in my videos, and I could talk about different teams you could bring in, because it's very much, unless someone brings in major improvements to their cars, nothing much is changing at the minute. And I think you can all agree. So hey, we'll see what happens with F1 Fantasy. Comment down below what you think should be changed about F1 Fantasy, or do you think it's good as it is now? And remember, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bye.